Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is Take It to the Hizzy Fantasy Football, TITTH number 188. I'm your host, Justin Bruni. My co-host this evening is Jake from @Jake's F Fantasy Football. How are we doing, sir? Oh, still got you muted.
Yeah,
there we go.
Doing good. Ready for Thursday night football. That's what we're here for, right?
Yep. Yes, sir. We got a bit of a drudge match this evening with the Cleveland Browns and the Denver Broncos. Both teams are coming in, pretty beat up, but we're gonna get after it. Even with the bad games, we still got to make our picks, get all of our takes and our calls in. But how's the week going before we dive in? How's everything going non-football related?
Well, I'm always busy. Kids, work and life, and fall things and doing stuff around the house.
Fall things, get them pumpkins carved yet?
Nope.
No. like Christmas, we're waiting to the 13th hour to wrap presents and carve pumpkins.
We'll see.
I was more of a coloring a pumpkin kid growing up. I would just not the best hands. These aren't surgeon hands here. So my pumpkins were sloppy messes. I was more of a color the pumpkin type of kid. But
I think the thing is part of the fun is the mess.
Yeah, right. And cooking up some pumpkin seeds, all that good stuff, getting some salty seeds in the oven. I'm a fan of that part. I like that part. But the carving, artistic, these things don't color and they don't draw. They can color inside the lines. They don't draw. So
I think it's the knife kits that you get that really ruin it. It's like,
yeah, they're like super generic and
like, I want to do that. Then you try to do that and you cut it and you just rip the thing. You're like, nope, that's not right. So,
I remember being in college and being like, oh, I'm going to carve a pumpkin. And I was like, I don't need all that stuff. I'll just use my knives in the kitchen. Yeah, it didn't work out. It didn't work out. We threw that pumpkin away. That was garbage. All right. Well, let's jump into some of our picks for this evening. One of my best bets for tonight, just getting started here. Courtland Sutton under 64.5 receiving yards. I'm fading most of the Broncos this evening. It sounds like, Jake, you're favoring the Broncos tonight. We'll get into that here in a little bit. But sounds like we'll have some good banter going back and forth here. First up, we're going to dive into our monkey knife fight props. First set of props up, we have D'Ernest Johnson versus Javonte Williams for rushing yards. D'Ernest Johnson, his prop is at 57.5 rushing yards. Javonte Williams is at 48.5. I like the over for Johnson, and I like the under for Williams. What do you like here?
Ooh. I mean, from what we've seen of D'Ernest Johnson, that's what makes this tough is, the Broncos defense has looked pretty good, but they've also played a lot of bad teams. So it's sort of, it's tough to tell exactly how good their defense is. And it makes you think that it's probably good, though. And then, what we've seen of Johnson from last year when he got a little bit of time, he had some good games.
Right.
And so, I guess the more does seem about right. It depends on, I guess, how much work he really ends up getting. And Javonte, the Browns' run defense is tough. So, and they split pretty evenly. So, that's a tougher number for me. I think the 48.5. No, I'd say both on the more side. It'll be a Thursday game, weirder than we expect, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, expectations, they only last till about the first quarter or so, right? Then everything starts getting flipped on its head. With D'Ernest Johnson, when you look at Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, those guys each get about 11 to 18 carries a game. So Chubb's like 18.5 carries a game. Hunt's about 11.2, and they're both averaging over 5 yards per carry. Now, I don't expect D'Ernest Johnson to come in and still produce at that high level like Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, but I do expect him to get between that 11 to 18 touches, right? So maybe like 14 to 16 carries. somewhere in that range for 4 to 4.5 yards per carry. That should get you over the 57.5. So I like that number a lot for D'Ernest Johnson. And I don't think he's necessarily going to be on the field like every down. Like I do see Demetric Felton touching the field as well, probably on third down, coming in for some pass catching relief. So I do see D'Ernest Johnson getting used more so in the red zone and more on first and second down. But I do like him to go over the 57.5. Javonte Williams, 48.5. He averages 50 yards rushing per game. Like you mentioned, Cleveland Browns rushing defense, one of the best in the league. They are the best in the league. So fewest yards allowed on the ground to opposing rushing opponents. So I'm going to go with the under 48.5, excuse me. I had 47.5 written down on my sheet here, just because I don't believe he's going to hit his average. Like when you're going up against top 5 in the league, typically you aren't expecting to hit the number that you are hitting each week. Also, I like him to come in for some reserve work on pass catching. Not sure. I mean, what do you think about Teddy tonight? It looks like he's going to be probable.
Yeah, he seems like he's playing. I think, this is another thing that's, I thought that the Browns defense this year would be better overall. They made a lot of changes to their secondary, but we've sort of seen that. We've seen some games they play really well against the pass. In some games they weren't. So I feel like they're still on the bad end, which gives Teddy Bridgewater a good chance to play, good matchup, kind of. Everything should be smooth for him.
Right. Well, that's what I was kind of getting to, was where the Browns aren't allowing yards on the ground, they're still allowing a fair amount of yards in the air. So maybe Javonte Williams comes in and has more receiving yards than he does rushing yards this evening.
All right,
next up we've got Noah Fant versus Odell Beckham. This is for fantasy points, over under 11.5 points for both players. I like the over for Beckham and the under for Fant. That's assuming that Beckham will play.
Yeah, I'm actually the opposite. I haven't been a real big fan of Odell Beckham at all since he's been on the Browns.
Not a fan.
He has had some. Okay, yeah, he's had some big games, and that's it. Like some big games, and then a bunch of almost nothing. And Fant's like a star on the rise. He's a young tight end. He's good. He's getting better. I think he'll probably get a touchdown tonight, and if he does, that plus some catches and yards is usually more than 11.5. So there you go.
Right. Yeah, so Cleveland has allowed the fewest receptions to the tight end position. That's really all I'm going with. Maybe he still has a decent game, but they're just not allowing a ton of volume to the position in general. And they've had some good opponents too. The Chargers, the Chiefs, Arizona. I know Arizona, they were missing, I think, both of their starting tight ends. But regardless, I think that's just a little enough upside for me to fade the over for Fant's total. And for Beckham, just with that extra little bit of probability that he gets more touches with Hunt and Chubb out. That's really all I'm going with it. Trying to keep it simple a little bit anyways. All right, let's jump into our actual preview for tonight's game. We've got the Broncos coming in as road dogs, plus 1.5 on the spread, now up to plus 103 on the money line. This game was paying even money on the money line most of today. The total now is at 41 points. Browns are laying minus 123 at home with the minus 1.5. So Jake, it sounds like you're in on the Broncos. Let's hear why. Are you going to take them to cover or just outright win?
Oh, yeah, I think they're going to win. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the Broncos have a good shot of winning this one.
Okay.
I'd say it's more than just Baker Mayfield being out. I think Case Keenum actually isn't as bad as people probably think he is, and him being with Kevin Stefanski, who he had his best season with before. All those things are positive signs, but I think I don't know. I get the feeling the Browns have been weirdly inconsistent lately, and I think that may be connected to Baker Mayfield's arm, his shoulder issue. That's probably why. And changing it up today probably isn't going to help anything, especially on a short week. All that stuff. Lots of things. Little things working against them, and I don't know. I think the Broncos are probably a little better than people think, though they also have the same kind of inconsistency week to week.
Yeah, absolutely. So both teams are 3-3, straight up on the money line, whatever, for their overall records. Broncos started out 3-0, but those wins didn't come up against any teams with winning records. Not even 500, not even a 500 record. I believe they lost to the Steelers, and they were also at 500. They're 3-3 now. So with the Browns, I was like, oh well, for sure. Like the Browns, they've played better teams, so they're going to have a better record against winning teams. They don't. The only team that they've beat that doesn't have a losing record is the Vikings, and the Vikings are a 500 team, right now. Now, how it shakes out for the rest of the season, I think we'll see that Cleveland, had the tougher schedule. And I guess that's just where I go with it. Iron sharpens iron. This Cleveland Browns team has put up a ton of points, this season so far, up against really good teams that are better than the Broncos, in my opinion. Broncos defense has been pretty good, but it's still middle of the run. We got for pass yards allowed, 13th in league, 14th for rushing yards allowed. I'm sorry, 11th and 4th. That was offense. That was offense. So they've been good, but their opponents haven't been amazing, and the opponents that have been decent enough have beat them. So it's tough for me to take Denver on the short week, also dealing with injuries on the road. Cleveland, they got to stay at home. They're dealing with a lot of injuries as well. But I also like their reserves more, and I also prefer the play calling of Kevin Stefanski over Pat Shurmur. So this game's going to be close. I think we can both agree on that. If there is a big amount of separation, I would assume it would be the Browns ahead of the Broncos as well. I still like their defense a lot more. Their secondary is bleeding yards, but their rushing defense is the best in the league here. So I'm still going to go with the Browns. What do we think about the total? Over under 41 points. Right now, 62% of the money is coming in on the over in this game. 38% to the under.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. Thinking that both of these teams will score more than 20 tonight, 20 plus each. Like if they both get 21, that's 42. So, that feels reasonably likely. And I think I'd take that too, that both teams get close to or a little over 20 points, and that puts the total over 41.
See, coming into this one, I was thinking like a 24-14 Browns. That's what I was thinking. And obviously that covers, but I don't want to touch the cover tonight whatsoever. With the numbers this close, I'm just taking the money line here. That puts us to the under. But I feel like the Broncos might score one of those just garbage time touchdowns, even with a lead like that. Yeah. Maybe they're up by 10, and that's what pushes it over. So frankly, I don't want to bet it. If gun to my head, give me the over, because I feel like, in this league, it's just still so hard to go under, the 38s, the 41 totals, just because of the way, pass interference, the evolution of penalties on the quarterback and stuff like that. Just all of this stuff. The player misconduct, the taunting penalties, like anything will move the chain these days. So it's hard for me to always, buy into the under consistently. Like I said, gun to my head, I'll take the over, but I'm not betting on this. I'll take maybe some money live on the total, but I'm not going to bet it, prior to the start of the game. We got the Makeshift Manager podcast in the chat asking hockey, then LCS, Thursday Night Football. Let's get it, gentlemen. Baseball's in the playoffs? Who knew? Not me. Been a while since I watched a baseball game this season, but also a Cubs fan, so that explains more than enough. All right, start sits. For tonight's game, we're looking at, first up, Teddy Bridgewater tonight or Jimmy Garoppolo versus Indianapolis. Which way you going, Jake?
Ooh, out of those two, I'm a bigger fan of Teddy Bridgewater. Okay. And Jimmy's matchup isn't bad, but, obviously if you've seen his play the last couple of years, even, fantasy-wise, fantasy point-wise, it's just been a weird disappointment, occasional huge game, but and I do have both of them as good starting options this week. In my articles, there's if you need a guy as a filler, either of these guys is okay. Neither of them injuries, but yeah, so I'd take Teddy over Jimmy.
All right. I'll play devil's advocate and go with Jimmy just because it sounds like he's healthy. Like it sounds like he's going to be good to go. Trey Lance has been amazing for them in small doses. We'll say, we see the highlights, but what people aren't seeing are, some of the wide open misses into the flat, wide open misses on crossing routes over the middle, wide open, like Mitch Trubisky wide open type of issues. That's where I'm getting at there. No. Yeah, he's a rookie. He's raw, but the talent is there. Still think Jimmy Garoppolo is the more consistent option. Didn't seem like the calf issue was that big a deal. Needed to sit out 1 week. Looks like he's back. I love the matchup versus Indianapolis, so I'll play devil's advocate and go Jimmy Garoppolo here. Next up, we have Case Keenum tonight or Jared Goff at Los Angeles, going back to LA. Dual revenge game there.
Yeah, I had Goff as a backup in some leagues, and the first couple weeks I was like, oh, hey. And then after that, I was like, oh, no. And yeah, I'm still leaning on the oh no side. Like the Rams,
yeah, I hear you.
They allow a good chunk of yards and whatnot, and they allow a good chunk of fantasy points, but also they can shut down some quarterbacks.
Right.
And if it's Jared Goff, who used to play with them, who knows them, and they know him, no, I don't want to touch that. And Case Keenum, yeah, he's getting thrown in at the last second, but hey, he's been here before. He's done that before. And it's a pretty good matchup, pretty good option. I'd take Keenum. Not for maybe like 16 points or something, but Goff get 12 or 10.
If you are in a super flex league, I would probably try to put in a player. I would probably try to put in a running back or a wide receiver over these two guys. Honestly, I could see OBJ or Landry throwing a touchdown tonight. I don't know if we seen one of those yet this season. They love to do that, like end around, reverse, or get a sweep in motion, and then OBJ or Landry will pull up and throw a dime downfield. I mean, we could see something like that, on a short week, dig into the bag of tricks a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, I would try to stay away from both of these guys, but I will play devil's advocate. I'll go with Jared Goff again. Give me double revenge game. Jared Goff's going to be in there biting kneecaps. I mean, he might be on the ground a lot, so the kneecaps will be a lot closer than they usually are. But yeah, I'll go Jared Goff there. Like I said, double revenge game. He's also familiar with the Rams. They're familiar with him. It's not the great matchup, but neither is tonight for Case Keenum either. Like, neither of those guys, I think, are going to score you 2 passing touchdowns. So, all right, next up, we've got DeErnest Johnson this evening or Myles Gaskin this Sunday versus Atlanta. Who you got?
I mean, myself, yeah, am a fan of Myles the Gas Man here, but
I wish they'd give him some more mileage.
Such a roller coaster.
Sure. Yeah, I wish they would give him some more mileage.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is some weeks he gets a whole bunch of catches, and sometimes he gets like 6 carries, and that's it. It's like, well, yeah, and it's hard to predict. His matchup is better, though. It does look a lot better on paper. And I think and Tua is back. I thought that's what was making him not so good is that Tua wasn't there. But then last week, no, that wasn't it. So, but maybe they'll get it back together, start gelling again. I don't know. I like the Falcons matchup better than DeErnest Johnson's tonight.
I'm going DeErnest Johnson, and this is real. I have Myles. Well, no, actually, I think I might have Myles in my flex because, like you mentioned earlier, it was buys, injuries, and et cetera, right? Yeah. So I'm starting both of these guys, but if I had to, I would still start DeErnest Johnson over Gaskin just because of the consistent workload. I'm really comfortable with Johnson getting at minimum 15 total touches tonight at minimum, and that's receiving and running combined. I have no idea what I'm going to get from Gaskin. It could be under 10. It could be under 8. They keep loving to bring in Salvon Ahmed, Malcolm Brown. I don't care what take anyone gives me, what stats, what research you've dove into. No one will ever convince me that Malcolm Brown is better than Myles Gaskin. Just a fact. It will not happen. Yeah. I would love more touches for him. Would love it.
Yeah, it looks like Brian Flores really brought the Patriots backfield down south, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. But look at Dame Harris. He looks great. He looks great. I would love him down in Miami. Man, killing me. All right, next up we got Javonte Williams tonight or Melvin Gordon tonight. I think they're both close enough in rankings and value to keep them on the same card here. This is the frustrating thing about the Broncos backfield is both of them look pretty good every week. Right.
And both of them get about the same amount of work every week. And both of them are usually not doing quite enough to be like a guy you want to start. It's like, they'll get 8 to 11 points, 50 yards and a touchdown-ish, somewhere in that range, or maybe they bust a long one. But, I'd go youth here, though. I'd pick Williams over Gordon, and, that's pretty much just the reason, and that Williams. No, yeah, I'd say one's more involved in pass game and running, but no, they're both doing the same thing, both splitting pretty evenly. No.
I would go with the youthful legs as well. Just his speed on the outside, has that little bit of extra edge for me. And because I do believe he'll catch more passes. Last week, I advised listeners and fans to fade James Conner and Chase Edmonds. Now, Conner, he had a respectful game. He wound up getting some catches that made his his production at least fantasy relevant. Chase Edmonds, I don't think as much. I could be wrong there, but realistically, I would want to be fading both of these guys because the Cleveland Browns are just so good up against the running back position.
Yeah.
can't the stat for the touchdowns allowed isn't coming to me, but it's top 5 in the league, top 5 for yards against as well. So there's not as much upside. You need your running back to get receptions in this matchup. So I think there is more upside for Williams in that aspect. So leaning towards Javonte there. All right, next up, we've got the receivers. Deep group here. OBJ tonight, Henry Ruggs versus Philly, or Allen Lazard versus Washington. Who you got?
Yeah, those are all kind of deep shots. I think most people would like to say OBJ is the easy answer, but you know,
I don't agree.
Him being injured tonight, he could play decoy tonight for all we know.
True. That's true.
Ruggs, he's that boom bust speedster. You never know how many carries he's gonna get, or how many receptions and targets and whatever he's gonna get. And Allen Lazard is kind of like, is he going to break out and be the Packers number 2, or is he just have an occasional decent game here? I don't know. Out of these 3, I guess OBJ feels like the biggest gamble. Henry Ruggs less so of a gamble, and Allen Lazard like the best floor, but it's not a big floor.
Right.
Yeah. So if I had to pick between these 3, yeah, I think I would go Lazard with the thought that, last week was a sign of him getting more involved. And,
I agree with you.
We'll find out.
No, I agree with you. And if you look at it, Allen Lazard, he actually, or not leads, but he's second in the team in snap counts behind Devontae Adams for receivers. So like they value him. He's on the field a lot. Snap count percentage is there. The injury to Marquez Valdez-Scantling, right? That opens up a little bit more opportunity, more snaps, more percentage on the field. So I'm going to go Lazard. Got the touchdown last week. The matchup up against Washington is super juicy. I'm all about it. Ruggs matchup versus Philly, not as great. OBJ banged up and hobbled. Next one we have is Cortland Sutton tonight or Brandon Cooks at Arizona. I think Cooks at Arizona is a home run.
I mean, they're both good because I feel like Sutton's like a home run pretty much any week. And tonight's a good night. Yeah, they're both good guys, good matchups.
So earlier when I gave the Sutton prop that I was taking the under, I actually forgot to mention to the prop he's 3-3 on the season. So 3 out of his 6 games he's gone under the 64.5. He's split. So there has been some games. I know like the Giants game. Came a couple of the first game of the season he did not have a good game, and then there was a couple of games. Not the last 2 games. The last 2 games he's been great, but I think it was either 3 or 4 games ago he had like 3 for 8, 3 catches, 8 targets or something like that.
Yeah, his first few games, it was like he was, Saquoning, coming back from that.
Yeah. I hear that.
Wasn't quite there. Then once he got it going, it was like, oh, okay, yeah. Now people remember how good he is, and I like him tonight. I think I'd go Sutton, even though both good choices.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Cooks. I like the matchup versus Arizona. I would assume that game probably even has a higher point total just because of the Cardinals are playing in it. So I'll go Brandon Cooks there. A little bit more opportunity, maybe just constantly playing catch up. All right, next up is Tim Patrick tonight or Tyler Boyd at Baltimore this Sunday. I think I like Tim Patrick. I think I like Tim Patrick more than Cortland Sutton in this game.
Yeah, Tim Patrick last year really kind of emerged as this guy that you could pick up and play, and he'd give you 10 points. And it was like, okay. And it's like nobody really thinks that's exciting. Nobody really thinks that's super great. But also it's like, hey, if you want 10 points, just start him. Like, he's a good lock for that pretty much any week. And this year he is because there are some injuries ahead of him. KJ Hamler went out, so that kind of pushed him into the 3 spot. Jerry Jeudy's out. So it's like, oh, okay. That's what's given him more opportunities this year.
Right.
But Boyd, Baltimore's defense has stepped it up, but Boyd is the 3rd option. So does Baltimore have 3 really good corners, or they just have enough to cover, Chase and Higgins, and then that leaves Boyd with more opportunities than we think he's going to have. So, I think I'd go Boyd for the upside, Patrick for the, So, I think I'd pick Boyd here, even though it seems like a bad matchup. It might not be.
Boyd's production just seems more difficult to just guess. I mean, to estimate or predict. Like, last week it was a dud game. Joe Burrow, the volume is there. That's why I like Boyd in this play, is just because Joe Burrow has that potential to throw 45 plus times. I think the highest he's thrown this year is 38. But last year as a rookie, they were letting him go to 50. I think he even had 60 in one game. That shit was crazy. Would love to see that again for my Joe Burrow shares. I would love those 50 or 60 passing attempt games from him. But even with him tailored down a little bit, down to like to the high 30s, low 40s, that's still going to be a lot more volume than what Tim Patrick is going to get tonight. I like Tim Patrick a lot. I'm starting him this week, but I would start Tyler Boyd over him as well. I agree with you. And then a little bonus pick. This one's not on the bottom screen. Kendall Hinton or Khalif Raymond. Kendall Hinton tonight or Khalif Raymond at the Rams for you deep leaguers, you man leagues.
Yeah, I don't think I'd Hinton. Yeah, not even on my radar, I don't think. But Raymond has shown up on my radar a few times. So It's like, hey. And I did think about picking him up in some of my deeper leagues. So, yeah, I think I would pick Raymond because at the moment it does look like, he's still the top guy, the starter at the moment, Yeah. Even though, right. They don't really, use their receivers much on the Lions. Right. They use them just enough where it's like, need a guy flex is good enough. And Hinton, no.
I lost by a couple weeks ago. I lost by, I don't know, like a point or I don't know, less than a point, something stupid, point and a half, whatever. Khalif Raymond put up a 0. 0. I think that was the same week Myles Gaskin put up like 0.25 or something like that. It was a really sour week. But I dropped him like right away, just out of anger, out of spite, like get off my team. What are you doing here? And then Cephas went to the IR, so I was like, I'm gonna need you back. I'm gonna need you to come back really quick. Yeah, I think Khalif Raymond's the play there for sure. A ton of snaps. He's always on the field. He's a smaller guy, has some speed, can come out of the slot, and can burn you downfield. I'm waiting for this guy to have like a weird game. He did have a weird game not that long ago. He had a 2-touchdown game not that long ago. So I guess he's already has a weird game for the year. All right, we got BOPUX_ in the chat. Which 2 to start in my flex? Timmy Patrick, AJ Green, Alex Collins, Khalil Herbert, or Jamal Williams. My God, man. You got enough players there, pal. Alex Collins, I think, is still free reign. No Chris Carson back yet? Is that right?
Carson went on IR, so yeah, he's out for 3 weeks at least.
Yep. So give me Collins. I'll go with him 1. And you know what? I don't know about Damian Williams yet for the Bears. I probably should know that.
Yeah. So that's what's killing me about this one is if Herbert's actually going to start, I would want to pick him. But I think looking at this and thinking that Damian Williams is going to be back, take back the starting role, I think I'd actually pick Tim Patrick and AJ Green out of these here.
Okay. I'm trying to think. Who does Seattle have on deck?
Oh, geez.
Collins didn't look bad up against the Steelers. I thought he was the one that carried them.
He did better than I expected, because in the past he didn't look super good, and it didn't look like a good matchup. I'm pretty sure this week the matchup was good. Oh, they play the Saints. That's not a real good matchup either.
But Steelers weren't a good matchup either. It's confusing to me.
Yeah.
I like the AJ Green play. I'm not an AJ Green guy. He's like in that same boat with Odell Beckham Jr. But I get that pick. He's playing really well. Waiver guy that we were going over a couple of weeks ago. I'll go Tim Patrick and Collins. AJ Green as a short third. Just wish I knew about Dame Williams. I actually have that situation, Dame versus Khalil, in a couple of spots. I need to get that figured out.
Yeah.
All right. So next we have Noah Fant versus Mike Gesicki. Bopux, thanks for the question in the chat, sir. Noah Fant versus Mike Gesicki. Fant tonight or Gesicki versus Atlanta?
Ooh. I mean, these are both guys who are, on the edge or well into top 10 tight ends.
Can't make it easy on you, pal.
Right, yeah. I mean, Fant's good. Fant's tonight. Gesicki, Gesicki has the little bit better matchup. And I think, that's enough to push it for me, I guess. And,
Fant like I mentioned earlier, Cleveland allowing the fewest receptions to the tight end position. So right there with you. Give me Gesicki. I think that's a home run. JT moving in the chat saying Tim Patrick or Hunter Renfro. I will leave this all to you, Jake, because this is a flex question that I'm dealing with. So I'm going to stay out of it. I'm going to let you guys handle this one.
I
have Hunter Renfro in right now.
Yeah. Let's see. Renfro. The Raiders are playing the Eagles.
Eagles. Eagles are pretty good up against the pass, but Renfro's not your ordinary receiver.
Right. Yeah. Renfro, he's been pretty well involved most weeks, getting a good amount of targets.
Mm-hmm.
And, both these guys, yeah, just like Tim Patrick, like consistent 10 points. both of them are good in that sense of getting a lot of catches. But I think, yeah, Renfro, I'd stick with Renfro. Yeah, he has the bigger upside. If a game goes south, it seems that Carr likes to chuck it at Renfro's way quite a bit when that happens.
Third and Renfro, it's the way to be.
Right.
Yeah, so Derek Carr, I think, is the only quarterback who's thrown 300-plus yards in 4+ games. So just a little bit of extra upside. They're probably going to be playing from behind at a certain point. And honestly, I like what I see out of the Raiders post JG. I think there's brighter days to come. And they already had a great start to the season. Some of that stuff just makes so much sense now. Like, we didn't use Kenyon Drake at all. Not we. I'm not a Raiders fan, but they didn't use Kenyon Drake at all once Josh Jacobs came back. I thought that was peculiar. Like,
right.
This guy was killing it. And then Jacobs comes back from injury, and it's like, nah, Kenyon who?
Mm-hmm.
Go back. John Gruden was like, go back to Kenya, bastard. That shit was crazy to me. I really felt like they quit on him, honestly. Like, once they found out not found out everything, but like found out enough information, like, hey, this guy's doing saying stupid shit, they just quit on him.
Yeah.
At least in the week prior to last. So, all right, next up we've got Austin Hooper or David Njoku. Last one for the night.
Is Hooper 100%?
I have no idea.
And yeah, that's kind of the question is, yeah, Hooper's good. He, seems to be like an injury prone kind of guy.
Right.
But and Njoku, he only had that one good week, and was it last week or 2 weeks?
It was crazy. It was 2 weeks ago. It was like 7 for 7 for 1 billion yards and a touchdown. Yeah. Hooper's fine. I just looked it up.
Okay. Yeah, I got to give it to the Hoop. Hooper's going to be the guy. Yeah,
you guys could just leave this spot empty. But yeah, I'll play devil's advocate. I'll go to David Njoku here just because he has had a big blow-up spot. Austin Hooper hasn't yet. That's it. Very little to nothing else to share on that. All right, so we got about 10 minutes till the game starts here. Let's just jump into some of our love-hate for the week. I'll kick it off here. Guy that I love. I hated these guys last week. I'm reverting. I'm flipping 180 here. I'm going James Conner and Chase Edmonds. Had a terrible matchup last week up against the Browns. Conner, he had a fair amount of production still. It wasn't like, definitely not production that was going to lose you a week in fantasy, but maybe not production that was going to absolutely hit a home run and give you a win. Like him this week, Houston, third for yards allowed on the ground and third for touchdowns allowed on the ground. Fair amount of upside here for Conner. Still think there will be a lot of upside for Edmonds and Kyler rushing props as well. So definitely some guys that I'm attacking this week. James Conner, Chase Edmonds versus Houston. Hammer them in your lineups. Any specific players that you really love this week, Jake?
Weirdly, what I'm liking this week is the Patriots backfield. Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson. Both of them this week against the Jets.
Love it.
Seems like a good lock. They're both probably going to get good carries.
Jets have been pretty solid in the air game, so there's a ton of opportunity to run on them for sure.
Exactly, and that's it. And then, if Stevenson really is going to get involved in catching passes and stuff and just, seeing that guy who's so big and fast in space, it's just like, oh no. If he gets rolling, I think that would just be fun to watch.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. What about hate? Who's your big hate player of the week? Fading in all circumstances. Will not start. I don't care who's on bye. I don't care who's hurt. He's staying on my bench. Who is it?
This week, for me, it's pretty much a lot of the Browns players. That's about the only team. I couldn't find anybody I wanted to start from.
Fair enough. Well, it's Thursday night too. Like, when in doubt, fade Thursday, right? Like, especially in a game like this or a matchup like this where your expectations are just so low for the stars. I'm a Cortland Sutton guy. I love the receivers for the Broncos. I hate that I'm taking the under on them, but tonight the juice ain't right. There's something in this drink. I'm not taking it. No thanks on the Sutton. Very excited for Jerry Jeudy to come back. Looks like he might be making his comeback next week, if not the following. So that'll be very exciting. He had a great start in that week 1 before getting hurt. I'm very anxious to see what he can do to finish out the season. And my hate is Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz been looking really good the past 3 weeks. 2 passing touchdowns in each of his last 3 games. A tip of the hat, sir, for sure. It's solid. That's not normal production that you get out of Carson Wentz, minus like the first half of his MVP season where he got hurt. But this week he's going up against the San Francisco 49ers on the road, not starting them. No thanks. Niners second in the league for fewest completions allowed to the quarterback position and second in fewest yards allowed. So the upside is going to be limited. I'm not sure. Carson Wentz was looking good with Paris Campbell. Paris Campbell got hurt. T.Y. Hilton, is he still banged up? I think, didn't he get, he didn't finish that last game, didn't he?
What I heard so far this week for Hilton is 50-50 for Sunday.
50-50, okay. Well, for a guy that just came back after a long-term injury, I would think that he would probably be on the negative side of that, but they're going to need him. Like Paris Campbell was looking great. He was a fringe starter for me last week, and as soon as I saw that touchdown, I was like, man, what are you doing, man? Like, come on. Like,
right.
And then, obviously he gets hurt. So, you don't feel great about it, but it's just like, okay, like the volume wasn't there, but he was a guy that I went out and spent a fair amount on just because I love the way he looked versus the Ravens. I was expecting better things to come. I wasn't really worried about T.Y. Hilton, but now with him gone, like I still see there being, even, less upside for the offense. They're not, they're trying to like tailor touches for Marlon Mack so that he can get traded. Like, I don't get any of that when you got Nyheim Hines there, not giving him touches. The whole offense is confusing to me. Carson Wentz has looked good, but I'm fading him this week. Just don't love the matchup. All right, let's jump into our final start sits for the week. We're going to start with the quarterback. Again, these are not going to be easy. First up, we've got Sam Darnold at New York going up against the football Giants versus Matt Ryan at Miami. Which way are you running?
Both of these are sort of, I guess you could call them lower-end quarterbacks with good matchups. But yeah, I think I'd go classic here. I'd take the old man, Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
The Miami matchup is good. And Darnold just, I don't know. I don't know if he's fallen into a funk or, because his big games were rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
And that's what was kind of weird to me. But hey, I don't know. Matt Ryan for me in that choice.
Yeah, I like what Matt Ryan's been doing recently. I just mentioned the positive production for Carson Wentz. Really need to take note of Matt Ryan. He's thrown 8 touchdown passes in the last 3 weeks, or his last 3 games. I believe they were on a bye. So coming off the bye versus Miami, it's a great matchup. They've allowed 13 passing touchdowns. The Giants have allowed 14 and, 2 extra rushing touchdowns on the ground. But I think with Matt Ryan's recent production and what he's been putting together versus Sam Darnold, I think he's the easy choice here. So let's ride with Matt Ryan. Next up, we've got Taylor Heineke and Carson Wentz. Wentz was on the list before I did my love-hate, so I'm obviously going Heineke. How about you?
No, I'm going to pick Wentz in this one,
okay.
And I think it's sort of personal. Heineke had some good games earlier this year that were 20-plus points, made him look good. I picked him up because I lost Russell Wilson in a league, and I started him last week thinking, this is the best matchup possible for a guy who's gone over 20 points. Here comes 20 points. And then he stopped. And it was just like, okay, maybe those 20-pointers were the outliers, not the pattern. And so, Wentz hasn't had any huge, exciting games yet, really. But I think he's kind of like last year's Phillip Rivers / last year's Ben Roethlisberger. It's like,
sure.
We're going to get you a nice chunk of points. Not necessarily a huge chunk, but it's like, probably good for 17, 18. And, and I think that, I'd stick with that for Carson.
I hear you. With Heineke, I know he's had some up and downs, and I'm right there with you. I actually drafted him with my last pick in Scott Fishbowl because I drafted Fitz, and now he's going to be like my bye week guy, right? So I was able to settle that. But highs and lows, nothing amazing. I mean, he's still a really young quarterback. He hasn't played 10 total games yet in the NFL, right? I just like the matchup better. Green Bay, they're really hobbled still. They're hurt. Yair Alexander out. I think Desmond King's still out. So a lot of upside for the passing game there. I know they lost Logan Thomas. Or not Logan Thomas. They lost Logan Thomas and now Ricky Seals-Jones. So I think that there's going to be a lot of Heineke to McKissick action. They're going to be moving the chains, and they're going to be hungry for a win. I don't think they're satisfied with that performance last week, especially given that matchup like you already mentioned. Like, what were they doing? Tons of opportunity there. All right, next up, we've got some running back and wide receiver combos here. First up, we got Darrell Williams at Tennessee versus Elijah Mitchell versus Indianapolis versus Marquise Brown versus Cincinnati. I like Darrell Williams here. I think he's a lock for me between these three. What do you think?
No, for me, the lock is actually Marquise Brown.
Okay.
I think the Titans and the Colts defenses, both the run defenses, are pretty tough. Darrell Williams, I get it. He's on the Chiefs. It's a good offense, but I think he'll probably get stuff there. Elijah Mitchell, he had that one good game early in the season. It was the first game. A lot of people picked him up, and then injuries and things. And he's a rookie, and I see the upside, but also I have to see the upside before I want to start
more consistently.
Right. Yeah. But Brown, I think the matchup with Cincinnati is actually pretty good, and I think I'll have a pretty good game.
Yeah, I think the matchup is good, but I think that the Chiefs and the Titans, they're going to be putting up points. We just saw the Titans put up 34 on the Bills, the best overall defense in the league. I'm excited to see what that game is going to bring. I'm hoping for fireworks, and I want every bit of the players in that one. Give me, even like Demarcus Robinson. You're looking at Tyreek Hill coming in a little bit beat up. Maybe some of those back end receivers can, get a few more snaps and make something happen. So I'm taking Darrell Williams on the passing game upside. Jerick McKinnon, they didn't let him off the leash whatsoever last week. It was pretty much his backfield. So I'm just keeping it simple there. Marquise Brown, really nice second slot, but typically when I'm going for my receivers, if I have receivers that are better than him on there, I won't feel bad about holding him back. Still having a really good year, though. Still having a great year. And he's really emerged as the number one target. So I get it. Next one up here, we've got Leonard Fournette versus Chicago, Cordell Patterson at Miami, or Michael Pittman at San Francisco. I think I lean Cordell Patterson here. Honestly, the most consistent production of the three. Michael Pittman, he ain't dropping anything. He's got 43 targets, 0 drops. I love that. And last week, I felt like we saw Ronald Jones eat a little bit into Leonard Fournette's role. I feel like he might get a few more touches this week if Tampa goes up big.
Yeah, so I noticed that as a pattern for Tampa last year, or what I thought was going to be a Tampa's regular pattern was that they're going to get good leads and then they're going to run the clock out. But they didn't really do that at all. And now this year, they've started to do that. Pick one, but at the same time, Cordell Patterson. The matchup is too good, and Patterson, he's listed as a running back. He gets a handful of carries, but it's about hey, he's probably going to have 5 catches, and then all the yards you get with it, and probably he's a good shot at getting a touchdown, and there's all that. It's it almost feels like he's a lock for 16 plus points. It's ridiculous. I do like Pittman this week because of the questions of the receivers around him. Yeah, Ty might be out. Paris might be out. Yes, they aren't the
Paris
same
is
kind
gone.
of guy.
Paris gone.
Yeah, right, yeah. Sorry. Paris is for sure out. But, Pittman, because of that, even though they don't play the same role in the offense per se, he could get more looks because of that. So he makes it tough to choose, I think, here. It's Patterson for sure.
Yep, sounds like we agree there. Next one up, we have Allen Robinson at Tampa Bay, T. Higgins at Baltimore, or Devontae Booker versus Carolina. We talked earlier about Uzomah and going with him, Tyler Boyd over Tim Patrick because of the volume. Same thing here. I'm going with T. Higgins at Baltimore because Joe will probably pass anywhere from 35 to 45 times at most. Justin Fields and the Bears offense, they're going to throw maybe at best 25 times. They've only gone over that number once with Fields, so I don't trust it. And Devontae Booker matchup of Carolina isn't amazing. I thought he would do better last week. I mean, the matchup wasn't great up against the Rams. I think he had 65 to 68 total yards rushing and receiving. Didn't do enough for me to say, I got to get him on my lineup this week. So I'm going T. Higgins here. What do you think?
I think I'm in the same kind of boat. Is that Tampa Bay looks like a good matchup. But based on what they did to other rookies and young quarterbacks this year, I feel like it's, almost like a trap game for someone who wants to start Fields or some of the Bears receivers this week. Even if they get, behind and have to throw, it's still, I think it's just too much pressure on them. Their front seven's still really good for the Bucs in that,
Oh, yeah.
That, and if Fields can't do it, then Allen Robinson isn't going to get it,
Yeah, he could still have a decent game, 4 or 5 catches, 50 yards or something like that. Kind of what I'm expecting out of Cortland Sutton tonight.
Right. That's where I have him, is probably under 10 points. Not great.
Yeah.
Higgins coming off his injury and whatnot, I don't know. He hasn't been real good for me lately, so hard for me to trust him, especially going into a Baltimore matchup. And so that leaves me with am I really looking at Booker to start? And it's like, yeah, I think I'd take him.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I mean, he didn't look half bad at times. He was finding holes. He was moving the chains. I just don't love that matchup with Carolina. Right. I think the matchup versus Baltimore is pretty solid because Marlon Humphrey's going to find somebody and tag him. It might be Tyler Boyd. It might not. It might be Jamar Chase. There has been some struggles up against the Baltimore passing defense, but again, it's just a volume play. I expect him to have the most amount of touches of these three guys. Booker, I still think will be at around 9 to 11 at most. I think Higgins can get anywhere from 7 to 10 catches in this game. I think he's going to be targeted quite a bit. All right, next up we've got Corey Davis at New England, Hunter Renfro versus the Eagles, or J.D. McKissic at Green Bay. I mentioned earlier that injury to Ricky Seals-Jones, so I'm going to go to J.D. McKissic, who's just been, honestly, just eating up production. He's been pretty consistent. A few low weeks, but when you have a younger quarterback that doesn't take those big shots downfield or lacks downfield targets, you go with the safety glove with the slot running back. So I'm going to go J.D. here.
Yeah, I don't like Corey Davis here versus New England because their
terrible matchup.
Specialty is take away the best player, and that's Corey Davis. And McKissic, it really depends on who else is available around him. And I didn't even hear that Ricky Seals-Jones was going to be out this week, so I've got some lineups to adjust.
There you go. Get to it.
And J.D. McKissic, I have him quite a few places, and I was thinking about starting him because of Antonio Gibson's sort of questionable status.
I don't get that. He looks fine. I've seen practice tape. He looks fine. I don't understand.
Yeah. What it is he has a stress fracture in his leg, and I've had that before too.
Okay.
That's basically where your bone just cracks nice evenly straight across, so it's still there, still together. Snap, but it's just cracked, so it just hurts.
My leg hurts now
all the time. And and so when I heard that, it was okay, they should take him out, bench him, rest him, because if he moves a lot,
that's what I'm saying.
If he pushes a lot on it, that's gonna make it worse, and that's what they've been doing. So it's no,
bro.
They should just.
I saw him doing individual drills today, doing the 1-2s over the pylons and shit. What are you doing, man? That doesn't look healthy for your shins.
No, it doesn't. So, I like Hunter Renfro this week too. But I think I would go J.D. McKissic as well. Yep, out of these three.
Yeah, I agree. We got our first completion of the game here on the first play to Jarvis Landry. He gets right up and starts yelling at the corner. Throw the flag.
Hey,
he's just yelling at the guy that hit him.
Yeah.
Just be consistent, referees. Come on. What did I wonder what he said while he was so physically daunting to him? I respect you.
Yeah.
You ever think they'll do that?
Crap talking. That's okay.
Yeah. I would love that if just some guy was just visually violent. Oh, Hooper going for a big one. We're already in scoring range. At tight end screen to our boy Austin Hooper. We're already across the 50-yard line. Broncos defense not looking great so far.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into our tight ends, and then we're going to head out of here and watch some football. So we got Zach Ertz, first appearance with the Redbirds, with the Cardinals versus Houston, or Hunter Henry versus the New York Jets. I was about to say Giants again. The Jets. I'm going Zach Ertz here.
Yeah, it's hard to, now that Ertz is finally in being the man, being the starter, even though, I think it's just the whole Cardinals offense. They're so good. They throw a lot. That any one of those guys could have a touchdown any week. Mm-hmm. So it's sort of hard to predict, but I think we might see some classic Zach Ertz here where he's just real good, top 3 level, but he might not get that many targets compared to way back then. But he'll still be
that's
good,
true. That's true. He's going to be a big body in the red zone, which has looked pretty friendly for Kyler in the red zone. He goes after Hopkins, AJ Green down low, so another target down there is going to be definitely friendly. I love the Ertz start. I went to start him last week, and it was right before we went live on our show. And D'Ernest Johnson inside the 5, killing me. Finish, son, finish. I go to put Zach Ertz in my lineup. I'm like, I like this matchup tonight. I'm going to start him. I swear, I thought that I hit safe. Did not. So I missed out on his touchdown last week. It was the first week I was trying to start him. I was like, I'm going to start 2 tight ends. I had him in who was Dalton Schultz. I had Dalton Schultz. So this is my Scott Fishbowl league. So I faded tight end completely. Zach Ertz was the first tight end that I picked, and I hadn't even started him, or at least tried to start him until last week. He gets a touchdown. I get all excited. I go look at my score. He's not there. I was very sad. It's very sad. Hate that shit. Save your lineups.
Yep, I've done that before.
It happens. It's all part of the game. It's all part of the game. Last one here, CJ Uzomah versus Evan Ingram.
I can't even, Evan Ingram? No, never. Uzomah, he's the winner.
I agree. I am also never an Evan Ingram guy, and it's not because I never was. It's because I've been burned. Right. And once you get burned by somebody really bad in fantasy, like it's just an emotional thing. Like you're just not going to come back to him. Not going to happen.
Well, no, it's the past few years of being really not good. Lots of drops, and you know that it's him. He has tons of targets. Mm-hmm. The opportunity's there, and he just keeps dropping the ball.
Yeah, and they're non-contact drops too. It's not like right. I went up into a position and for a contested catch. No, they're literally wide open drops. I mean, we see that from time to time, but his consistency in that manner is it's too much and daunting. I'm not a fan.
Mm-hmm.
We're up 7-0, Broncos headed to the over.
Ooh.
Well, we'll see. We got 12 minutes left in the first quarter here. We are going to head out. Jake, please let everybody know where they can find your content, find you on Twitter, and find all of your written work, all your articles.
Yep. Yeah. On Twitter, I am over here at Jake's F Football. That's also the name of my site, jakesffootball.com. You can find me also on Facebook and on Instagram. Not as active in those places, but Twitter is a good place to find me. And on my site, I write 7 or 8 articles a week during the season, and there's plenty of things to read and a lot to read a little bit, come back, leave, come back, because things get updated, things change. You don't need to read the whole article all at once. Right. Definitely a good reference. I have to take my own notes sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
Always, right? I try to do that. When someone asks me for advice on something and I give them a pick, like whether it's gambling or fantasy, whatever, I try to turn around and do the same thing. Like if someone asks me, like, what are your picks tonight, or they'll just ask me like a game. Like somebody asked me yesterday, like, what was it? Celtics and the Knicks. And I said, well, I'll take the Celtics to cover 2. I lost by 4, whatever, but I still felt confident about it. And after that, I immediately put my own money on it. Because if I'm going to tell somebody else, like, hey, this is your pick, you should do this, I should be willing to do the same, right? It kind of goes hand in hand. Fantasy, you may not have that same player. That just is what it is. But if you do, then you should be speaking from a place of reference, what you're actually doing in your own strategy and stuff like that. So I can definitely appreciate that. And as for Twitter, you can find my stuff there as well. But no one saw us tonight, Jake. So we had the old Twitter link instead of the autoplay tonight, and I didn't realize it till about halfway through.
So, all right.
Sorry about that, pal. We got to have you back when we get the full stack of views in here. Usually we're pushing anywhere like 700, 900 views on Twitter, which is amazing, but I don't think that's going to be the case for this one, pal. So sorry about that. I don't understand that whole thing. I don't know if it's StreamYard or what, and I always ask people, like, I haven't had this issue before. Explain it to me how it's happening, and this is the first time ever. And instead of the autoplay, it went to the straight link. So sorry about that. But we did have some viewers come over from YouTube, from Twitch, and from Facebook. So appreciate everybody that stopped in tonight. Please be sure to smash the like button, share the video, and follow us on youtube.com/take it to the Hizzy. Let's go. You got anything else to close it out with, sir?
Nope. Just everyone have a good night.
All right. Take care. Be well, everybody. Be good. If you can't be good at it. We'll see you.